So I've decided we've had a pretty good week. The fire's going. It's a nice warm room. Cowboy's hauled in more wood in the wheelbarrow. He's got quite a stack over in the corner too. And our house is very cozy today. So, and we've done really good this week. We have our freezer meal that we put up last November, the day of Thanksgiving, all our leftovers. We did freezer meals with turkey, potatoes, gravy, stuffing, and that's what's in my hot fire right now, warming up for a Sunday dinner. And yesterday I had cooked up 2 beets, so I'm going to put those in a pan, a skillet on top of my cook stove. And I've got a squash that I'm cutting right now. We are going to eat like kings. But I have not had bread all week, and I have cut almost all sugars out. I had a little bit in our applesauce this week and a little bit of honey. So I have, yes, bread raising. I am going to make us a couple pans of caramel rolls, probably, just to have a treat. Now that is Andrea's recipe from VW Family Farm. So go over there and check out their recipe for that bread to be mixed up with your KitchenAid. It's quick. It's a smaller batch than I'm used to mixing up, but I just felt like that was perfect today for what I wanted to do. And I wanted to have a good caramel roll with a cup of coffee for a treat today. And the rest of them I'll individually wrap, and they'll either go in the freezer or out to the root cellar for a while, but probably more than likely out in the freezer if I've got the room. So that's our Sunday morning here on the homestead. I hope yours is doing good. I hope your weather's going to get nice. Ours is warming up slightly. We're supposed to hit 40 degrees today. We'll see. 40s all week long. So bring it on. I can handle that. Hi there, folks. Welcome to Prairie Girl and Cowboy Homestead. Once again, we've made it to a weekend. It's Sunday morning here on the homestead. My fire's going good. And I'm going to mix up something that we haven't had all week long, or for that matter, since probably Christmas or Thanksgiving time. I have not mixed up homemade bread. So I felt like, we've done really well. We've cut way back. I had no bread this week. The sugar is pretty much out of our diet. I do think Cowboy has snuck a little bit and found some frozen cookies, but that's all right with me. He can find those cookies, but for the most part, on my end, I have done really well for the week, and I know it'll probably mess me up, but I am going to have a fresh caramel roll with my coffee later today and enjoy the Sunday afternoon. We have our cook stove going. It's nice and warm, and you'll see my bread is sitting over there with the towel on it raising. So I've got an hour and a half before that goes into pans. I'm just going to clean up my kitchen a little bit, and we'll catch you soon. So here I've cut open my squash, and it was a really nice size squash, and it's in good shape. I'm going to go ahead and keep these seeds. I'll be picking that out of the meat of the squash, drying those seeds, the good ones, and be able to use those back in our garden. But these have been a really good squash this winter, and we've ate one just about every Sunday. There's been a time or two we have missed, but we've been eating a lot of them. So I'm going to get this into the cook stove along with our freezer meal of Thanksgiving food, and then I have my cooked jar of beets. I had boiled 2 beets yesterday from the root cellar and peeled them, and now they're just ready to go ahead and put in a pan skillet on the hot stove, cook stove, with maybe a little butter, salt and pepper, and I'll warm these up. But we are going to have a good feed. Our fire's hot. Our freezer meal is in the oven. And now I've put the squash in. It's on the bottom. Fire is going hot. Over here we have the bread raisin. There's just a little simple taste of life that is a lost art anymore. It's a lost way. There's a few of us out there, a few of us crazy ones that still like the comfort of a wood stove, the heat, being able to cook on it. And yes, it's a job getting out, cutting the wood, but it's also called exercise. It's good for us. And it's a simpler life. For some, you've never had a chance to experience this way of life. Maybe your folks didn't live this life at all, or your grandparents. But there's a longing inside your soul to give it a try. And my hat's off to all you young folks out there with your families that are trying to take care of yourselves, grow your own food, preserving it. And that's why I'm here. That's why Cowboy and I are here on Prairie Girl and Cowboy Homestead. We're here to share a little bit of our daily life, and this is just how we live. It is our way of life. There's no show. This is it. This is the real deal. So we feel there is a reason God has put us on YouTube. And that's to share a little bit of the simpler life that we have here on our homestead, and to let others see that there are other ways of living. It's so much better for your health. You're self-sufficient. You can take care of yourself and your family. You can grow a garden. And right now, we're in the downtime on our homestead. Our garden won't start till a lot later than most of your gardens. We'll be lucky to get one in end of May, 1st of June around here. So this is our downtime on the homestead. And all we do is prep our bodies, recoup, and make plans for the spring ahead. And we're hoping that the good Lord blesses our garden this summer and helps us produce an abundance of food to either can, preserve, dehydrate, or put into our root cellar for the next year ahead. So if you enjoy following us along and you think there's somebody else out there, maybe have lived this life, want to live this life, long to live this life, maybe it's just a dream, tell them about our channel. Click subscribe and give us a comment or a thumbs up. We'd sure appreciate it here on the homestead. But for now, I'm going to go grab a cup of coffee. I'm going to kick my feet up while that bread over there raises under that towel. Right there. And I'm going to enjoy our day. May the good Lord bless you. And I'll be back after those rolls are done to show you what they turned out to be. So here I have just dumped. I have not measured a thing. I know I started with 1.5 sticks of butter, and I've dumped in some brown sugar that was a little clumpy, so it was really hard to measure. I've added some Caro syrup and stirred this up, and I'm just going to let it simmer a little bit. and hopefully it'll be a good caramel for my caramel rolls. And yes, it's not advisable to just dump and mix. Find you a recipe, folks. For the most part, it'll turn out, you know, sometimes it might be too sticky, sometimes it might be a little harder. I did add a little bit of evaporated milk too, but I would totally suggest finding yourself a caramel recipe for your bread. This is just something that Prairie Girl here has a bad habit of doing. Been that way all my life. And I'm hoping that this will work, because it was really hard to guesstimate with my brown sugar in the clumps. But they've dissolved nice. And I'm just going to let it boil a little bit. And when it's time to put it in a pan to make the cinnamon roll, I think it'll work just fine. I think I normally would put this bread in 2 9x13s, but I have a pretty big pan, and I think I'm just going to dump this whole thing into that pan and make one big pan of rolls today. Smells like caramel, looks like caramel, and I bet it'll be perfect. It'll soak up with that dough, and when I go to dump that pan of rolls out, it's going to be ooey gooey on top. I think I better find some pecans too. We need pecans. Okay, we're going to go ahead, sit by the fire, and get our bread dough ready for caramel rolls. The caramel is still on the wood stove, staying warm. I put a little bit of flour out on my table. I need to move everything to the side. And I'm going to dump our bread dough out. It's a little sticky. It's the way it's supposed to be, so it might take me a minute to get all the dough out. But it's nice and airy, and it's going to be some good caramel rolls. Okay. Bear with me, because I don't want to miss any of this goodness coming out of here. There's still some good dough. And I probably could have put some grease on the sides of my bowl, and it would have come out a whole lot easier. But I didn't do that. This was just a quick decision this morning. And I was wishing this morning with my coffee on a Sunday morning that I had a caramel roll. And so I'm just going to lightly fold this a few times. I'm sitting down just so that I can see you in the camera a little bit, or you can see me. But you really don't have to knead this bread much at all. The mixer kneaded it somewhat in the pan, and this dough feels really good. So I'm going to go ahead and spread this flour around a little bit more so I can make out a big pan of rolls. And a lot of people use a rolling pin, but I just use my hands. And actually it's a little harder when I'm sitting down. Usually when I'm standing up, I can really get some leverage on it. But we're going to do it this way and make it work. It wants to spring back a little bit, so you just got to kind of keep working at it. And a rolling pin would work really fine. This is just how I learned it from my mama. And that's how I do it. And I can stretch this out even more. After I make the log, I can pull it apart a little bit more. I don't want to get it too thin. Okay. I've got a little bit of melted butter here. And if you haven't ever had a real good, yummy, gooey caramel roll, it didn't have all this goodness in it. I'm just saying. You gotta have butter, you gotta have sugar, you gotta have cinnamon. And I normally use my hands, but I'm gonna make it a little easier here so I don't have to go to the sink. And I'm just gonna spread it around. And that's plenty melted butter. I usually take just a softened butter and use my hand and spread it around. Okay, now we're going to go ahead. I do put a little bit of white sugar, granulated sugar on, as well as brown sugar in the filling. No measurements. It's just how I do it. Got some brown sugar here. Cooking this Sunday dinner on this wood stove is making our house hot. I can tell you that for sure. I've got our sliding door open behind you, trying to let some air in here because it's pretty hot, but I need it going to keep that squash and that freezer meal cooking. So, it's pretty warm in here, but it's going to be a beautiful day, beautiful weekend. Okay, just a little bit more. All right, and like I said, if you've never had a really good caramel roll, it probably didn't have all this stuff in there. Okay, we need some cinnamon, and I just sprinkle to cover the, I don't like real thick cinnamon, just a slight cinnamon taste. Okay. And we'll just start to roll this. I hope you can see. I think you can. And I just try to keep it as tight as I can as I roll it. I used to bake these every Friday while the kids were at school. They usually had caramel rolls when they got home from school and fresh bread. I'm leaking out some butter there, but that's okay. Like I said, I usually just use softened butter, but I wanted to have it ready and easy to show you. So as I'm rolled this, I've pulled it a little bit more, and I've gotten a nice big log of caramel rolls. I am going to grab a rag and wipe this up so I can set my pan. I'll be right back. So the bottom of my pan doesn't get sticky. So you can keep watching. There we go. Okay, so here's my pan. It's a pretty big pan. It's more like 2 9x13, so it's a pretty big stout pan. And I think my phone is filling up for space, so I started cutting the bread, and I'm just slicing it with a bread knife like this, setting it down in my caramel just like that. And before my camera goes off again, I'll fill this up. I'll let it rise another half hour, whatever, 25 minutes, and I will go ahead and put it in a probably 375 on my oven degrees and just bake them till I feel they're done. They're so ooey gooey sticky right now, and the bread dough is just soft. They're gonna make some really good rolls, and my filling is even. My camera's full, sorry about that, but we'll get the most of it done. I'll get a picture at the end if nothing else. So as I'm cutting this bread dough is raising and just going everywhere. These are going to be some really nice, big, light and airy caramel rolls with pecans. And they're making a mess on my table because my butter and my brown sugar and my cinnamon's going everywhere because I had it pretty full. I bet we're going to get them all in here. I just felt like we needed a treat just to keep us going, because we're used to eating bread, potatoes all the time. And today, yes, will mess us up, but it's going to be okay. I think you just have to do it once in a while. You need to get through it and then start over again the next day for the next week. Okay, we're getting there. I am going to pull this over here, make it just a little bit longer. I've got such a mess that you can't see right here with that melted butter and all that brown sugar. I think I got just about enough in my bowl. 3 more. I see my cowboy's coming in. He's been out doing chores. And he's going to come in and he's going to say, "Oh, mercy." And he said that to the granddaughter one day, and she said, "My name's not Mercy." So we have got all the cinnamon rolls in the pan. And here they are. They're ready to raise. We've got 1 full pan, and we got a mess on the table to clean up. And I'll show you these when they're all done. What do you think, cowboy?
Looks mighty good. You've been busy.
We've been busy. We'll be back. So here the pan is ready. It's raising some more. I dumped a little bit more of the sugar mixture that ended up on the table on it, and we've got a huge pan of caramel pecan rolls raisin, and then they'll go in the oven.